This is the newspaper show with me, Poonam Burde. Over the next half an hour, we're going to get you what's making headlines in the top newspapers of today. We're going to begin with the Times of India, which is the Sunday Times. I am going to begin with the Delhi edition. Now, the biggest news, of course, over the last couple of months has, of course, been the corona count. India's tally is unfortunately only increasing. The recovery rate has been the silver lining so far, and that, of course, is the hope, the silver lining, the ray of hope that every Indian is clinging on to. The biggest headline, the top story in the Sunday Times today as well, is about India's corona count. It is about how India's share in daily global cases is now 12%. The share is increasing. The record 29,000 cases were added in just a single day on Saturday, which is the last 24 hours. The total number of cases in the country are now over 8.5 lakh. The death toll in Maharashtra has been of great concern. It is the worst affected state as far as coronavirus is concerned in the country. India's share in global cases, if you see the 3-day average, which is the tally that the Times of India has given, on June 12th, it was at 8.1%. On June 10th, which is 2 days ago, it was 11.8%. So we see the rise in that particular number of cases. 45% of India's COVID deaths in Maharashtra, 45%, less than half of the entire country's death toll comes from one particular state, which is Maharashtra. Mumbai is the city that is worst affected across the country. We've seen over 10,000 total deaths in the state. There are 223 deaths that were recorded just on Saturday. This is, of course, in the state of Maharashtra. That is as far as the coronavirus tally of the country is concerned. The Prime Minister has lauded the Delhi model. He says that it may be replicated in other states, beginning with the NCR region, which includes Noida and Gurugram. And the Prime Minister has said that the model that was followed by the centre and the state in the national capital, the door-to-door surveys, the number of testing that was ramped up, all of that has clearly reaped results, because remember, we have seen an upward trajectory in the number of cases in the national capital. This model has clearly worked, at least in the national capital. It is something that the centre is now looking to replicate across the country. That is as far as India's COVID count is concerned. The economy is now getting back to normal. It is on track. Remember, since January, India has been fighting the coronavirus pandemic. We saw a consequent lockdown in the fight against corona. We are now opening up. Economy, of course, is getting back on track. The whole idea of opening up the lockdown, ensuring that there are more people movement, there's more goods movement, is all to ensure that the economy, which has, of course, taken a hit, not just in India, but across the globe because of coronavirus, is getting back on track. This statement has come in from Shaktikanta Das, who is the governor of the RBI. He says that the economy is going back to normal, but uncertainties remain, of course. That is going to be a cause of concern over the next couple of months, but we are slowly and steadily getting back on track. The other news that the Times of India talks about today is India an alternative to China? Moving away from China, Foxconn to expand India plant. There are going to be 6,000 more jobs as far as this particular company is concerned. They're looking to expand. They're looking beyond China. This also comes at a time when India and China are locked in a bitter standoff. We've seen the aggression along the line of actual control. The world is now seeing that China and its expansionist policies are only hurting other nations, India included. Several other smaller nations across the globe have also been at the receiving end of these expansionist policies of Beijing. That has now caused several companies across the country, several governments across the world, really, to start looking at other alternatives other than China. India could be that alternative as far as several companies looking to invest outside of their home country is concerned. Foxconn is one of them. This one talks about Foxconn planning to invest up to $1 billion to expand a factory near Chennai. This is in Tamil Nadu. They are moving beyond China. We're given to understand that this company is expected to add at least 6,000 jobs to this new phone, where iPhones are going to be assembled. Now remember, Apple is an American company, but iPhones really are largely assembled in China. That has been a cause of concern not just for the company itself, but for several governments, several other companies across the globe. We're given to understand now that this could mean that the new plant once set up in Tamil Nadu near Chennai in India is Apple really looking to move out of China, is reduce its dependence on Beijing. The move is of course part of a quiet shift by Apple following the US-China trade war and the coronavirus cases. Now the US-China trade war really has been going on for months now. The United States has time and again come out and blamed China for trying to cover up the entire coronavirus crisis and ensuring that this is how really it spread across the globe. They've blamed China for it. That's the statement coming in, not just from Donald Trump, but from his entire administration. These are the big stories that we've seen, of course, in the Sunday Times. Rush of PILs in Supreme Court over Dubey killing is also another big story that finds place in the Sunday Times. Remember, Vikas Dubey, who was a dreaded gangster, was killed in a police encounter in UP a couple of days ago. There are several theories that are floating of whether or not it was a fake encounter, and there are certain PILs that have now been filed in the Supreme Court regarding the same. These are the top stories that we're getting to you from the Sunday Times. We're going to move to the Navbharat Times now. Let's look at what the Hindi daily holds for us this Sunday morning. The biggest one is from the national capital. It talks about it gives relief really to anxious parents and students who have been awaiting exams, results. The uncertainty over their future continues, and this piece of information is going to come as big relief to all of those. University ke semester final exam cancel. This is the decision that has come in from the Delhi government. These are only for universities that are under the Delhi government. This does not include two very big universities in the national capital, which is GU and JNU. They both come under the center, and decision pertaining to that would be taken by the Union HRD Ministry. But as far as other universities that are state-run by the national capital government, by the Kejriwal government, in those universities, there is going to be no exams. That is a statement that has come in from Manish Sisodia, who is the Deputy Chief Minister of the National Capital, also the Education Minister of New Delhi. The Navbharat Times also talks about the Delhi model. It says PM ne corona par Delhi model saraha, kaha NCR mein lagu karenge. This is also something that we saw in the Times of India, where the Prime Minister lauded the Delhi model of fighting corona, of how Delhi has now managed to keep a lid on the number of cases in the national capital. This is something that we now can be expecting to see across the country, beginning with NCR, which is the neighboring regions, which is the national capital region, which includes Gurugram and Noida, the neighboring areas, of course, of the national capital. That is where it's likely to be first replicated. There has been a lockdown in Uttar Pradesh for the weekend. It started on Friday. It goes up to tomorrow. Lockdown se UP border par sakti, bina e-pass entry nahi. This has also ensured that there have been some traffic snarls over the weekend, because there have been people who, of course, for work travel between Noida and Delhi, which is Uttar Pradesh and Delhi. They're two different states. The lockdown in Uttar Pradesh has ensured that there has been some sort of traffic snarls, but that has not been a problem. The lockdown in Uttar Pradesh really has been very, very strict over the weekend. Another piece of information is about the crisis that is brewing in the Rajasthan Congress, the Rajasthan government particularly. Ashok Gehlot, who is the Chief Minister of Rajasthan, has now said that BJP गिराना चाहती है सरकार, MLA को 25 करोड़ का ऑफर दिया गया है. That is the claim coming in from Ashok Gehlot, who is the Chief Minister of Rajasthan. He claims that the BJP is trying to topple his government, and they are offering 25 crores each to every MLA to switch camps. That's the big charge that is coming in from Ashok Gehlot. Rajasthan ke kuch MLA Mewat पहुंचे is also one piece of information that is part of this entire story. There is hectic activity, so to say, going on. There are movement of MLAs between cities in Rajasthan. We've seen we're given to understand that some people have also moved to the national capital. Some are in Haryana as well. We've seen some in Gurugram, some in Manesar. There are, of course, speculative reports. We do not have any confirmation of that. But it's no secret that Ashok Gehlot and Sachin Pilot do not see eye to eye. This is just another development in that crisis that is brewing in there in Rajasthan. These are the big stories that we've seen as part of the Navbharat Times. We're moving on to what the Economic Times holds today. On Sunday, Economic Times comes out with their Economic Times magazine. It talks about a cover story. Today's cover story is about the job status, because we've seen several job losses over the last couple of months because of coronavirus, because of the consequent lockdown. All of that has in fact impacted several industries, especially the hospitality industry, the airline industry. We've seen all of that. The job status and when loan freeze ends. That's the cover story in the Economic Times magazine today. Remember, there was a moratorium for loans for 6 months that the RBI had put in place. That moratorium is going to end in about a month and a half. What happens then is what the Economic Times is pursuing. The RBI chief has foreseen more pain for banks. This is as he says that the economy is showing signs of returning to normalcy. This is the comment coming in from Shaktikanta Das. But remember, banks in India are already struggling because they have been passing on the benefit that the RBI gives to them to the consumers, because the consumers have been suffering due to coronavirus and the consequent lockdown. In the time to come, as economy rises back, Shaktikanta Das believes, the RBI governor, that there is likely to be more burden on the banks that are already struggling. Another piece of information coming in is about self-regulation OTT content. This is what Piyush Goyal, the Commerce Minister, has now told the entertainment industry. He says that he supports creative expression, but there has to be some sort of regulation of what kind of content goes on these OTT platforms. There, of course, he calls for self-regulation and not really censorship. That's the big one here. Now, embrace the Quad is what the big story in the Economic Times magazine talks about. This is about the ongoing crisis between India and China. It talks about how our strategic reality warrants the militarization of the Quad. Now, the Quad includes India, United States, Japan and Australia. These 4 countries make up for the Quad. It talks about really the Pacific, the area which the US, the Trump administration, now reiterates, calls it as the Indo-Pacific area. A mention that really has irked Beijing over the last couple of years. India should shed its reticence and really embrace the Quad. We should warrant the militarization of these 4 countries. Need to come together and ensure we put up a tough fight against Beijing. That's the big story in the Economic Times. This is the cover story that I was talking about in the Economic Times magazine, which is about job status and how cautious optimism is replacing the panic that has gripped the market in April and June. Of course, it gives you statistics and highs and lows of what's really happening in the job market. It's all not doom and gloom. Of course, there is a silver lining. All of that is mentioned in this particular cover story of the Economic Times magazine today. Let's move on to the Delhi edition now. The Delhi edition, of course, talks about the number of cases that are increasing in the national capital. But the silver lining is that the death rate in Delhi is finally coming down. After months-long fight, we've seen how the centre and the state governments have worked together to ensure that they keep a lid on the spread of COVID-19. After that, we're now seeing that the death rate in the national capital has come down to 3%. Parveena is now joining us for more on this. Now, Parveena, the number of cases in the national capital, the death rate is all coming down. We've seen coordination between both the central government and the state. The model that the national capital is following has also been lauded by the Prime Minister.
Well, yes, after seeing the initial, conflict or the initial tiff between the central government and the Delhi government, finally we have seen both working in tandem and working on the same page as to how to reduce the COVID deaths and also working on reducing the number of cases reported in the national capital, and that did see a difference. Recently what we have seen that the state government report says that in the first week of July there was 0 deaths as far as home isolation cases are concerned. Remember, there was a little bit of differences as far as institutional quarantine and home quarantine was concerned, but finally the LG has succumbed to the pressure made by the state government and said, okay, understanding the cases and the severity of cases, home isolation was also allowed, which worked because the state government has provided with the medical tools which were required at home, for example the oximeters. Latest, after seeing that how to reduce the number of of deaths, the Chief Minister of the National Capital has asked the State Health Department to find out the findings as to what are the reasons of the deaths which has taken place in the past 15 days, whoever has lost their lives due to COVID-19, and what were the reasons. Working on that, there were some important findings which were there by the state government. For example, immediate medical response, infrastructure, ICU beds, and all that was monitored by the Chief Minister, and that eventually, with the medical infrastructure development, helped to reduce the number of death cases in the national capital due to COVID-19, and they are further working on enhancing and mapping out a way as to how to reduce the numbers further in days to come, whatever
and all those efforts are, of course, yielding results. We've seen that as far as the death rate is concerned, that has come down to now 3%, which is close to the national average. The number of cases are also decreasing. Parveena, thank you for joining us with those details. Moving on to what the Mumbai edition holds for its readers this Sunday morning. The biggest one, of course, is the fact that Amitabh Bachchan and his son Abhishek Bachchan were tested COVID positive yesterday. This was in a late night development where we saw both the actors take to Twitter and confirm that they were both positive for COVID-19. Both of them have mild symptoms. Amitabh Bachchan has now been admitted to Mumbai's Nanavati hospital, and his team says that he is in a stable condition. We also saw the actor come out on Twitter and urge all those who had come in contact with him over the last couple of days to get tested. That's the big story that the Mumbai edition, of course, holds. The other big story is that the Maharashtra tally of coronavirus has crossed 10,000. The last 5,000 cases came at 1,000 deaths every 5 days. Now, that's a statistic that is, of course, a concern, not just for the state government, but also for the centre. Kajal now joins us for more on this. Kajal, we saw some late night hectic developments there after Big B and Abhishek both came out on Twitter and confirmed that they were COVID-19 positive. Also assured their fans, the country, billion who are now praying for the two of them, especially for Big B. They came out and confirmed that they're fine. They're both in stable condition. We're given to understand that the others in the family have tested negative.
Test, at least they have tested negative is what we are being told, but swabs were collected and those tests are expected today. Test results are expected today, as informed by the Health Minister Rajesh Tope. We are right now at Nanavati Hospital, and the treatment of the Bachchans is going on in this case right now, and both of them are said to have mild symptoms, and they are both actually stable, is what the authorities here at the hospital are saying, and they are informing us that the due protocol for treatment is being undertaken for both of them right now. And of course, the BMC is expected to visit the Jalsa bungalow today for further contact tracing and disinfection, if it remains as of now. Because yesterday late evening was when they tested positive. So the BMC procedure for contact tracing and testing will continue for the next couple of days.
Absolutely. Jalsa has also been sealed by the BMC. It now will be sanitized. Of course, that is the protocol that is being followed by the civic body there in Mumbai. A billion are praying for Big B and Abhishek Bachchan. Thank you, Kajal, for joining us with those details. Moving on to what the City of Joy holds, the Kolkata edition today talks about how it's not just private hospitals that are running out of COVID beds, but even government facilities are now feeling the pressure, with the number of COVID-19 cases is spiraling rapidly in the city and in the vicinity. Of course, we've seen not just Kolkata, but the number of cases across West Bengal is also putting that particular pressure on the health infrastructure in the capital city. Tamal now joins us for more on this. Tamal, now this is a cause of concern really, because across the state we're given to understand that it's about 26% is what the hospital bed occupancy stands at.
Well, Poonam, the sudden spike in number of cases had taken the entire administration by surprise, and it all happened in over 1 week. When cases started hovering above 800, which has now shot up to 1300 plus, which has been reported yesterday. So yes, there is a sudden spurt in number of positive cases. The reason why the state government is feeling the pressure of the beds, because not all of them are having mild symptoms, even though home quarantine has been allowed, even though home isolation has been allowed, even though the government has quarantine facility, and over and above everything, they also have safe house as a concept, safe home as a concept. But when you talk about the hospitals, the COVID hospitals, which are more than 70 in number in the state of West Bengal, there is an imminent crisis of number of beds in the city of Kolkata, especially because Kolkata as the state capital has contributed almost 50% of the total number of cases which have been reported in the state of West Bengal.
Right.
We know that that police have already put in a request before the Cricket Association Board of Bengal to requisition the Eden Garden couple of blocks for police COVID warriors so that they can be quarantined there. So such measures are now being adopted by the state government to come up with alternate buildings, premises where quarantine facilities can be formed so that people do not feel the crisis of a bed.
Absolutely. There are more and more alternatives that the government of West Bengal is looking at. Thank you, Tamal, for joining us with those details. Moving on to Bengaluru now. The COVID count in the city, of course, of Bengaluru, and not just the city, but also the entire state, has been a cause of concern. The biggest cause of concern is that the rise in the number of cases of COVID positive under the age of 10 is now going to be problematic for the state government. That has caused concerns among the health department officials, we're given to understand. Imran now joins us for more on this. Imran, I believe we have Deepak with us. Deepak, we're given to understand nearly a dozen children have been diagnosed with COVID-19 in Mysuru this month. Now, this is a cause of concern because under 10 is not really, the age group that was vulnerable, so to say, as far as COVID-19 fight was concerned in the country. We were looking at senior citizens, but the number of cases in Karnataka that is under the age of 10 is now a cause of concern.
Between people who are of mid-age or old age when it comes to getting infected. So as far as the kids are concerned, it's definitely a concern because the level of immunity is something that it's going to be much lesser than a full-grown adult. But as far as the symptoms that have been shown now, many doctors have opined that it is mainly because of the monsoon right now and the weather changes that have occurred, that there are more people who probably would have gone through being asymptomatic are showing symptoms of fever, cough, and so on. So right now they're still in a process of assessing what's exactly happening, and probably a detailed study will reveal what are the real reasons behind it and how to tackle these issues in the days ahead. And of course, the number of cases that are rising is also a concern to add to all of this.
Right. Right, Deepak. Thank you for joining us with those details. The government of Karnataka there is battling the crisis on hand. Moving on to what Chennai holds today, the number of COVID-19 cases is only increasing in Tamil Nadu. Also, Chennai and 3 other districts of the state have been really hotspots. We're given to understand that the government now wants to hire more doctors and nurses as they're trying to deal with this pandemic. In other news, EPS has used COVID for his pre-poll campaign. Tamil Nadu goes to polls next year. This is, of course, the handling of the COVID-19 pandemic is going to be a poll issue. The government there is, of course, using that as their poll plank, really, and the campaigning on that has begun. We're given to understand that EPS has also told the HRD ministry, the Union HRD ministry, that they cannot conduct college exams. They want the HRD ministry to step in and take some measures like the Delhi government here has done, where exams have been cancelled for all universities. That's something that the EPS government is looking for in the state of Tamil Nadu as well. Good news coming in is a free dialysis unit has now opened up in the city of Chennai. That is going to come as a huge relief to all those patients who have been suffering because of the immense pressure that has been put up on medical infrastructure, not just in Tamil Nadu, but across the country. But the big news coming in is that because there is a huge number of COVID-19 cases, the Greater Chennai Corporation, we're given to understand, has floated tenders worth 20 crore rupees to hire doctors and nurses for a period of 11 months. They want to ensure that there is no dearth of medical staff, there is no dearth of these COVID warriors, because the number of cases in Chennai is only increasing. The number of cases around the city of Chennai is also increasing, and all of that pressure comes and falls on the medical infrastructure in the capital city as expected, and the corporation does not want to take any chances. Shabir is now joining us for more on this. He will be getting us the details, but we're given to understand that the corporation has said that it requires 121 doctors for primary healthcare centers, mobile medical units, as well as health centers. That's the big story coming in from Chennai this Sunday morning. Moving on to what global headlines hold for us today. It is, of course, about the number of COVID-19 cases. United States has reported 69,000 plus cases in just a single day. Remember, United States has been worst affected for a couple of weeks now. That's the big story. US continues to break its grim records, unfortunately, despite we've seen the fact that the Trump administration has tried to take as many measures as it can. Unfortunately, it's not working. The WHO has now said that droplets are still the primary mode of COVID transmission. This comes after they said that COVID-19 could, be transferred via air as well. It is an airborne disease, is what several doctors have told the WHO. But the WHO now maintains that droplets are still the primary mode of COVID transmission. That's the big story coming in as far as the world and how it's handling the COVID-19 pandemic is concerned. Moving on to the world of sport now. Late wickets have kept Windies in the hunt. Remember, there have been matches going on between West Indies and England. We've been getting you updates of exactly what's been happening. Now, late wickets have kept Windies in the hunt as far as the test match is concerned. But an admission coming in from Usain Bolt, Karishma, is going to be something that fans are looking forward to. Usain Bolt has said that he's open to come back if his coach asks him to.
Well, absolutely, that is something that is going to keep the athletics fraternity, busy. Not just fans of the sport, but also athletes who have competed alongside Usain Bolt will be very, very excited with this announcement, because remember, he is the fastest man on this planet. He is an 8-time Olympic champion, and for him to say that he is ready to come back if his coach asks him to do so is a very, very big statement coming in from Usain Bolt, showing just even after retirement, he is ready and raring to go and will be ready for Olympics in no time.
He's just waiting for a window of opportunity. It seems like we will have to wait and watch as to what really happens. But Karishma, thank you for the moment for joining us with those details. On to the world of entertainment this Sunday morning. There is an interview with Anupam Kher, who talks about his interaction with Sushant Singh Rajput. Remember, this comes weeks after Sushant Singh Rajput committed suicide. Anupam Kher says that everyone who meets with failure at some point goes through depression. This is in the context of the suicide of the actor. There is also another one which talks about Arjun Kapoor, and he is talking about how we need to start resetting our lives in the wake of the coronavirus pandemic. Remember, shootings across the country have resumed for several web series, for several movies. Arjun Kapoor says we will have to slowly start resetting our lives as things have changed forever. With that, it's a wrap from me on this edition of the Newspaper Show. More news and updates coming up on the other side. Don't go away.